Hello everyone, my name is Webweaver and welcome back to another episode of It's Look Who It Is. We are back again, once again, it's Look Who It Is. Now here's the thing, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. So we were having open world game discourse, and by open world game discourse, we were having Elden Ring discourse. We were talking about all the Dark Souls games in the chat, and by the chat, I mean I was talking with friends. And we were talking about... Let's do a Yumiko run. We haven't done a Yumiko run in 80 years. We'll do something not too crazy, just to kind of get our bearings here, because it's been a while since we played Yumiko. We'll do something not too crazy, not too easy, not too crazy. But essentially, we were talking about the Dark Souls games, and we were going through all of them, and eventually, inevitably, at the end of the conversation, we got to Elden Ring, because we were going in sequential order, but we skipped Sekiro! You pieces. Sekiro's the GOAT. But, you know, we went through and we were talking about all the games. And we got to Elden Ring, and then I had to come up with my, I had to say my nuclear hot take of Elden Ring, which is that I didn't like it, and I dropped it because I was bored. And that is not and this is true, not a recording video thing. Because I was playing Elden Ring twice, okay? I was playing Elden Ring twice. I was playing it once for the camera and once for the myself, right? I dropped it on camera because I thought it was boring as hell, and then I dropped it off camera because I thought it was boring as hell, okay? I am not a big fan of Elden Ring. Now, there are things that I like about Elden Ring, and it is a Soulsborne game. And so, if I played it and I got into it, I would probably really enjoy it. I recognize that it's a great game. You know, I'm not saying Elden Ring is, like, abysmal trash. Why did I turn window capture on? Y'all don't need window capture on. This is what y'all need on, so the nightmare begins again. I think Elden Ring's a great game. It's just completely missed me in the cultural zeitgeist around it. You know what I mean? Like, people were hyped up about Elden Ring. I was hyped up about Elden Ring. And I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into Elden Ring. I thought it was like, I was bored, personally. I'm not saying that the game is bad. I recognize that it's a masterpiece. But the thing is, I fucking hate... We're past a minute and 30 seconds, right? I'm not gonna get in trouble, right? Yeah, we're at like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, it's fine. I fucking hate open world games so much. I despise open world games with such a fervent fury, because, and this is true, they're bad. The modern open world game archetype that was perfected back in Far Cry 3 and GTA 4, but like Far Cry 3 was what really cemented the formula. I think Far Cry 3 was the turning point. I can't think of anything like more emblematic of it than Far Cry 3. The reason why modern open worlds exist, and this is going to be the nuclear hot take from the very beginning of the video, alright? Is that open world games exist to pad game time and runtime. Because there was a really big thing, I'm still thinking about the mystery to start here, dude. I think we're just going to go household hell. But there was a really big thing. It's less popular now, thank God. But back when... back in the day, one of the bigger things with gaming was you wanted a price to hour ratio, right? Like, people played games for fun, allegedly. This is the worst dog shit I've ever seen in my life. And it's just slightly shuffled around. There's no accessory item. Like, what is happening? I'll take the camera. I'll put the camera in the bag, bro. Put the fries in the bag. Put the eldritch monstrosities in the bag, bro. Basically, there was this big thing back in the day. Oh, we don't have the history club. That sucks. There was a big thing back in the day where you wanted to... Games were $60, and in order to justify buying the game, a lot of people would be like, I want to get 60 hours out of this game, and if I don't get 60 hours out of this game, I'm not buying it, or it's a bad game and I'm not going to recommend it to my friends. So what ended up happening was we got this big push for open world games, right? And probably Skyrim had an effect on this as well, because Skyrim was like one of the biggest games like ever of all time, and is still being sold today as like a new version comes out like every year, and people still buy it. And hey, I bought a lot of versions of Skyrim, all right? I'm not immune to propaganda. But the thing is, and this is important, is that, and this is probably another nuclear hot take, because I know people hate Skyrim and Oblivion, but, like, Skyrim and Oblivion did open worlds correctly, and I will die on that hill. But a game like Far Cry 3, the only reason why Far Cry 3 is not a linear level-based game is because by making you drive to the different objectives and giving you like 90 go hunt this monster, and it's just like a regular animal, but just go hunt this monster anyways, you know, like all of that stuff is just designed to get you to play the game as long as possible so that they could make you put in more time to that game, not because they're like vampires who are trying to suck as much of your, like, attention as possible, but because there was such a big, like, you know, player retention was not as huge of a thing as it was back then, because games were single player, and they had, like, an they had, like, a offshoot multiplayer mode that you had to buy the fucking multiplayer pass for like, $10, because they wanted to make sure you didn't buy the game used. I'm going all over the place right now, aren't I? I really am. I apologize. And the whole thing was like, I need to get as much entertainment out of this open world game as possible, right? Because you would buy, that would be like the game that you buy. You know what I mean? Like that would be like you had, like, you were paying $60 for a game. That would be the game that you buy. That would be the game that you play for like the next month or so, right? Month plus. So a lot of people, what they ended up doing, or a lot of game development studios, they would make like a bunch of like just random bullshit to do in the game, that where it was like, you know, you could hunt like 40 or 80 different animals in Far Cry 3, and then there were all the stupid like the radio towers that you had to like fight your way to, and you had to clear them, and then you had to hack the radio towers to unlock the map. You know, that sort of like Ubisoft classic open world style of game that's been regurgitated for the last, I don't know, 15 years? 10 years? 15 years? Somewhere in that time range? I'm bad at time. I don't remember when Far Cry 3 came out. And so a lot of that stuff, I personally believe, is just to pad the game time. And like, okay, what are the best open world games? The first Far Cry game you play. The first Far Cry game you play is gonna be your favorite, most likely. Whatever the new GTA game is, the new Bethesda game, and the first Assassin's Creed that you play. And I don't know, maybe you played like Crackdown 2? I don't know. Yeah, something like that, right? The first open world game you play is gonna be your favorite, right? Because what's my favorite open world game? Oblivion. What's my second favorite open world game? Far Cry 3. What's my third? Well, I'm okay, not counting Oblivion and Skyrim, because Oblivion and Skyrim are some of my favorite open world games. But like, taking Bethesda out of this for a minute, what's my favorite open world game? Far Cry 3. Is Far Cry 3 good? Yes, Far Cry 3 is good. But also, I'm gonna be real with you, every time I go to replay Far Cry 3, I'm like, yeah, this is abysmal. Like, I get so bored so quickly. I get so incredibly bored so quickly, because it is the same, they've been making the same style of game forever. And it does not replay well. It does not replay well at all in the slightest. And I'm not explaining my position very well. I'm just kind of incoherently ranting. And unfortunately, my opinion about open world games is sort of like paradoxical and incoherent. But let me try to explain, right? Because I'm coming into this video with a bunch of open world game hate, and not really a lot of justification. Okay, so what makes a good open world game in Webweaver's opinion? Well, it's very simple. An open world game is a game that is an open world. I know, groundbreaking stuff. But that means a lot. Like, that actually does mean a considerable amount. It means quite a lot as far as the game is concerned, right? And so when you are making a game like this, one of the things that you need to do is make it to where the open world actually matters, and I don't mean that there's some, like, random ass, like, climb to the top of the radio tower and hack it to unlock a portion of the map and see where all of the quests... No. That's bad. That is bad design. That is not good open world design. The idea of going to a specific point of interest and then that highlights all of the points of interest is a terrible idea. The whole point of an open world game should be the exploration. It should be the, wow, I wonder what's over there. And amazingly, out of everything, Skyrim got that right. Because you can just walk in a random direction after you get out of, Oh my god, is it, Oh my god, I remember Riverwood, but, like, what's the... Helgen. I cannot believe I forgot Helgen's name. I sometimes randomly recite the opening to Skyrim, the, hey, you're finally awake. Like, I will randomly recite that to myself, and it's like, I temporarily forgot what Helgen was. But after you get out of Helgen, you can go wherever the hell you want in Skyrim. You can go and do whatever the hell you want. And yeah, there is a main quest, but there's so much stuff to do and find, and there's enough interesting things that happen even when you're not at, like, a fast travelable location. You can just come across random things in Skyrim that are interesting. And then since the content is level gated, what ends up happening... A lot of people hate the level sync stuff that they did in Oblivion and Skyrim. But I think Skyrim specifically does it okay. I understand Morrowind is really, really good. But the thing about Skyrim is, like, some of the quests are level locked. And some of the things that you can find are level locked. So you can be going through an area, and there's nothing there, or there's no, like, specific event happening to trigger the quest, and then when you come back there at, like, level 10 or level 15, now there's an event happening, and there's a new quest there. That is actually unironically brilliant. And the thing about it is that, yes, there is a linear main story that sends you everywhere, right? And then everybody hates the Thieves Guild introduction, right? It's bad. I don't like it. But the thing is, it shows you that it is a pretty bad way, but it is an immersive way of showing you where content is in a way that does not feel, like, it feels obnoxious, but it doesn't feel as obnoxious as other games with, like, points of interest or, like, areas where you need to go, you know? Like, it feels, like, relatively natural. And again, it's bad, it's silly, it's ridiculous, it's unrealistic. But it introduces you that the Thieves Guild is there, they're a thing, they exist, and they're just kind of, like, hanging out. You know, we're not prepping an attack. Let's just get to 8 knowledge and then power level strength for the rest of the video. And, you know, everybody hates the College of Winterhold thing, because it's like, I don't want to join, I have to go here for the main quest. I don't want to join the College of Winterhold. I don't want to join the College of Winterhold. My character's not a mage. Why do I have to join? Why do I have to cast a spell? And that is dumb, right? And there should be some sort of alternate way or, like, dialogue option or speech check that is like, okay, I don't want to be a mage. I'm not a mage. I don't want to do this. I just want to get through, right? And you can kind of do that because you can say that you're the Dragonborn and then you can shout and then they'll let you inside, right? But I understand that people want more avenues for role-playing. But if you think of Skyrim as an open-world sandbox and not as a role-playing game, the design decisions make a lot more sense and it feels a lot more natural and you understand it. Because how Skyrim is designed is that you can basically do whatever the hell you want at any point, and if you keep doing it, your character gets better at it, right? And so it makes the game silly. It makes the game very silly. But there's one thing about it, alright? There's one thing about it that makes it absolutely goated, alright? And that is that it ends up functioning as an immaculate open world because it doesn't fall into the pit traps of other RPGs where you get locked as a build. You know, like if you are playing a certain playstyle in Skyrim, and then you're like, oh wait, this playstyle sucks, you can pivot. Like, you can change weapons, you can change weapon types, you can go to magic, you can go to all builds inevitably end in stealth archery as soon as you find out how ridiculously overpowered stealth archery is. But, like, it really is significant. I'm dumb. I forgot that she was weak to blunt. But it really is significant how good of a job Skyrim does at just being a open world, at being an open world, right? Like, is Skyrim a good RPG? No. Is Skyrim good for roleplay? Depends. Is Skyrim a good game? Question mark. But they got the open world aspect of it right. They really did. There are interesting things to find. It's paced really well. The world is really cleverly designed in a lot of ways that are very fun. There are a lot of fun dungeons to stumble upon, and yeah, it's a little bit silly. It does a lot of things wrong. There are a lot of problems with Skyrim. I'm not gonna say that, you know, that Skyrim is like an immaculate game with no flaws. I think that Skyrim and Oblivion have plenty of flaws. All Bethesda games too do. They're extraordinarily buggy. But the way that they pace their open worlds is really strong. And then you look at something like whatever Far Cry game it is now, because it's like, you know, it's the Far Cry game of the year or whatever, you know? It is they have been making the same game with the same formula quite frequently. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that, like, I will never be able to experience the joy that I had playing Far Cry 3 ever again, because every game is just iterations on Far Cry 3 in a way that it doesn't really matter, you know? Like, your favorite Far Cry game is either 2 or the first one that you played. I'm sorry for calling you out like that. Right? And it's one of the reasons why I could never enjoy Blood Dragon, because Blood Dragon was really good, but, like, also it was just, like, boring as hell. Like, because it was just Far Cry 3. It was just Far Cry 3.5. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just, it didn't do it. Like, it didn't do anything that helped with, like, Far Cry 3 as an open world. What was there to do? You drove from point A to point B, from quest to quest, and then if you felt like getting an upgrade, you would drive to a point of interest, and then you would do it. You didn't interact with the open world at all, and that's the problem with a lot of open world games. But there are some really good open world games where you do interact with the environment. Like Dying Light, for instance, is really fun, because in the beginning of the game, the first zone in Dying Light is immaculate. It is a parkour dream. And you start thinking like a rat, you know? You're thinking like, okay, I can get in. There's zombies around this building. There's zombies at the lower part of this building. I can get in from the roof. Get in, get the loot, get out. You start thinking like you're a parkour, like, genius. And the game intuitively instructs the player on how to go about the world with things that are like, okay, I'm jumping from this roof to this roof to this roof. I'm going down here. I'm getting that chest. I'm lockpicking that chest. And then I'm, like, jumping off the roof into the car. I'm landing on the car. I'm running through the streets. I'm bobbing and weaving. I'm jumping up on the sign. I'm jumping up onto the railing. I'm jumping up onto the roof. It works so well, and the game is designed so well for parkour. So the fact that it's an open world and the movement is a mechanic, right? Like, that is my favorite kind of open world, where it's like, okay, this game is designed around a movement system, and the world itself is enabling that movement system. It feels so good. And it works so well because you get into this situation where when you're on the rooftops, when you're jumping through when you're walking on the pipes, when you're bobbing and weaving through the cars, when you're like Mario jumping off of zombies to reach a higher ledge, it feels amazing. It feels great. It's one of the best open world games I've played in the sense of it being an open world. And it does have a lot of that annoying open world stuff where you go from point A to point B and there's nothing really to find or explore. There's not really a lot of interesting side events, you know? But because the movement is a mechanic, because the game is designed around you running from point A to point B and how to make that interesting and how to make you think about that, it keeps the player engaged. And most open world games don't do that. So if you're gonna be an open world game, there's one of two things that you have to do. You either have to make the movement itself compelling so that you feel like you're having a good time moving throughout the world, or you have to make the world compelling like Bethesda does with a game like Skyrim, or hell, even Fallout 4 to an extent, where you are wandering around and you are finding, because that's the design philosophy around Skyrim and Fallout 4, is you are walking into miniature stories. You know what I mean? Like, you're going from point A to point B, and along the way you're gonna get, like, a random event where some NPCs appear and do something, and then you're gonna stumble upon like, a cave or a dungeon or a building or whatever, and you're gonna go in there, and there's, like, some stuff happening inside, and maybe you get, like, a little story, like, you find a note that tells the story of what happened, and maybe you get, like, a fun, like, enchanted item, or you get, like, a dragon shout, or you get a cool gun or whatever, depending on what game you're playing. And it's like, the entire purpose of these games is environmental storytelling and letting the player walk in on something happening. That is the entire purpose, that is everything that this game is designed around and for. Every single aspect about Fallout 4 and Skyrim are designed around allowing you to experience environmental storytelling. And that's one of the reasons why the games are so compelling, and that's why they reach such a large audience, is because... Can I do this? Like, I don't want to lose sanity and then get, like, locked out. Well, that's, like, exactly not what you want to see. Because that is not only my speedrun, but my sanity as well. It's not very good. We didn't even get the person, so there's no point in doing that. Sometimes you get them on 2, sometimes you get them on 3. I was kind of hoping, to be honest with you, but it's alright. So... the camera's gonna buy us a lot of time. That's alright. It's not that bad. But yeah, the camera's just gonna carry us here, so don't mind me. Don't mind me as I do this repeatedly. I think this is the one where you want to block it, but, you know, it is what it is, right? You just gotta send it and hope you don't die. Beautiful. Now, you do have 39 HP, which is a little bit problematic, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, 95% chances? I can't say no to that. Now, maybe we do a little block here, and then... we maybe throw the broken bottle. Maybe we throw the flashlight, too. Is there any chance here that we just, we're gonna have to take a chance at some point, and that's probably now, because this would be... that's 20 damage. I'm not throwing the camera. You have to dance with the one who brought you. I'm not throwing the camera. I'm so sorry. We're doing it big, alright? We are doing it big, chat. It's correct. We're doing this. Unfortunately, that's how it is, you know. Do I want to do another run? Do we have time to do another run? Not really. But I can rant about open worlds for like 5 more minutes to make it seem like I lived and won the run for people who are still at that point. I don't know, one more 50% chance going our way, it would have gone a long way. Or if I just alternatively didn't get greedy and try to get the person from the school, that's probably the way to do it. But I wasn't really paying attention about the run. The thing is, with Elden Ring, I have a very paradoxical approach about Elden Ring, which is either they need to do the Soulsborne Shadows Die Ring twice approach of you are in an area and they don't give you any hand-holding at all, and it's just like, you're in Firelink Shrine, go. Or they need to do an open world thing where they show you where the interesting bits are and you just fast travel on your horse, right? They can't, they did a half and half where the open world has, like, stuff going on and there are, like, dungeons, but, like, it just kind of exists, you know what I mean? Like, it just kind of exists, and it's just like, the more I explored in Elden Ring, the less compelled I felt, because the game would be like, hey, listen, you gotta go over there and do the thing. Like, you gotta go over there and do the thing. Like, there's the main story over there, you gotta go do that. And that rubbed me the wrong way, because, like, Dark Souls never really did that, you know? Some random idiot told you about a bell that you had to ring, and then when you rung the bell, some other random idiot was like, did you actually know there were 2 bells? One of them's underground. Mwahaha. And then they gave you, like, some whack-ass name, and you're like, I guess I gotta find a way to get to the sewers, then. Or, like, underground. You know, but in Elden Ring, it's like, okay, it's an open world, go wherever you want, but also the main story's right over there. You should go do the main story. The main story's right over there. You should go do the main story. The main story's right over there. And it just felt so frustrating because it was not compelling as an open world where I can just pick a direction and walk. Like, that, like, the early points of Elden Ring, like, I don't know if y'all have seen, like, probably not, because it was a while ago. But when Elden Ring came out and I was doing the videos on it, right, I got out of the church that you start the game in, the tutorial, and I looked south, and I immediately was like, I want to see what's back here. Because I was trying to limit test it, you know, like, in Dark Souls 1, you can either go to, the New Londo Ruins. If you have the Master Key, you can go to the Valley of the Drakes or Blighttown. Or, if you don't have the Master Key, you can go to the Catacombs or the Undead Parish / Burg. I don't remember which one it is. And you're very quickly going to find out, if you're a new player, that, oh, I could go to the Catacombs, but the skeletons are there. The skeletons respawn. They're very tanky. I'm scared. I'm not going that way. Or, oh my god, there are ghosts attacking me. I can't hurt them. I'm not going this way. And then you go to the undead, like, the undead burg or parish or whatever the hell it's called, and you kill the enemies easily. And it's like, it uses the player's intuition to guide you where to go. And so I wanted to see if there would be anything like that with Elden Ring, and there wasn't. The moment I got out of that church, I talked to the NPC, turned around, and ran south. And I ended up fighting some weird-ass boss that was in, like, some weird darkness dome dimension. I killed that. I kept walking. I found some guys just patrolling. I killed them. I kept walking. I found this big-ass bridge, which had, like, a bunch of guys on it. I killed all them, got all the loot there. Found a Grace. The horse lady appeared. The firekeeper. She told me to go somewhere, and I was like, well, you know, that's cool and all, but I'm gonna keep going this way. I keep walking there, because I didn't get the horse yet. And, I walked all the way to that one big-ass area where the dude's shooting you with the bow, or the ranged attack, or whatever. And I got past him. I got to Castle Morn. I remember making a joke about it, because, you know, the channel mascot, her name is Morn. And I was playing as a custom character version of her, or at least as close as I could get. And I cleared out Castle Morn, and then I found that misbegotten guy behind the castle, and I was having a decent time, but it just didn't really feel engaging, you know? I was just kind of, like, going through the motions, clearing dungeons, and it was like, yeah, it's like I find a cave randomly, there's a bear in the cave, I get, like, an item I'm never gonna use. Sure, why not? And then I start, like, okay, fine, I'll start following the story or whatever. So I end up in Brazil briefly. I take a chest warp to I don't know, like a castle or whatever. There's like a big giant guy, and like, it's interesting enough. Like, I'm having an okay time. And then, you know, it just felt off. you know, it just felt a little bit off where it's like, having no, like, the other Dark Souls games were very good about giving the player subtle direction and then letting you figure it out for yourself. In Elden Ring, it was like a giant arrow pointing in the correct way to go, and if you went off the beaten path, it was like, here's a boss, and then you killed the boss, and then you got like a random piece of shit thing that doesn't matter, and it's like, well, this is a dead end. I now have to walk all the other way, and I know you're supposed to use the horse. I don't like the horse. I don't like the horse. I think Elden Ring would have been a better game if it was like Demon Souls or Dark Souls 3, where you go to your main hub area, and then you just pick a level, and then you go to the level, right? Like, my friend was telling me that Elden Ring gets very linear later on in the game, and it's like, I think the game would have benefited if the entire thing was linear, because the open world is pointless. Like, you can find crafting materials in the open world, but who gives a shit about that? I'm not playing Dark Souls to craft, are you crazy? Like, I'm playing Dark Souls for the adventure, for the epic adventure, for the medieval fantasy gothic adventure, you know? I want to see what's over there, not because, like, oh, there might be some cool crafting materials over there, or, ooh, I might see, like, an enemy patrolling. I don't know, dude. It just felt messy all over the place, and it was like it was a pretty mediocre open world experience. It didn't really feel like there was anything compelling to do. The stupid crypts or whatever that were basically just chalice dungeons. It didn't feel compelling at all. And when you would discover a new area, that moment of discovery was very quickly undercut by the fact that there's nothing interesting going on, because it's just an wide open space with crafting materials for you to run through on the horse so that you can get to the next interesting bit of the game. And it's like, that's the thing that drove me crazy, is it's like, the open world functions as the level select, but you have to run through it. And it's not as good as, like, something like Shadow of Colossus, where the navigation of the world is a part of the game, you know? Like, Elden Ring has the graces point you in the direction that you need to go. In Shadow of Colossus, you get on your horse, you hold your sword up to the goddamn sun, and then your sword has a light beam that you have to, like, hone in and narrow in on, but, like, it's janky as hell, it's weird as hell, and so you have to figure out where, like, the navigation of the game is basically the point, right? Like, there's the Colossus boss battles, and then there's the navigation of the world, and you have to pay attention to the world itself. But in Elden Ring, it's like, okay, this is all just empty space with crafting materials. Maybe something interesting will happen here later, but I don't know. Like, nothing interesting is happening here now. There's just, like, some dudes patrolling. And it's like, there's dudes patrolling in every other Dark Souls game. You know? I don't know. I'm gonna catch a lot of heat for this video. If you are an Elden Ring shooter, like, that's fair. I think Elden Ring is a good game. I just think that open world games suck unless they are specifically designed with being open world in mind. And when you get the horse and it can, like, jump and you have, like, a lot of mobility, and then you see an area where it's like, oh, I wonder if I could get up here with the horse, and then you just hit an invisible wall, it's like, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. Like, Elden Ring simultaneously does not have the open world freedom that an open world game would want, and it does not have the interesting movement mechanics that you would otherwise want, right? Like, the movement throughout the open world isn't interesting, the open world isn't interesting, and it's just, like, it would have been served better as a Dark Souls 1 or a Dark Souls 3 or even a Dark Souls 2! Even how the levels connect in Dark Souls 2 is, like, pretty good. I am not a big Dark Souls 2 person, but Dark Souls 2, the way the levels connected was at least interesting and at least fun. You know? You would go from, like, a flooded, like, completely collapsed area, you'd fight a guy, and then you'd go down an elevator, and then you'd be, like, in a pirate cove or something, right? Like, that shit was at least interesting. But I know Elden Ring has a lot of those cool moments, but because it's an open world, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna hit the I wish there was an auto run button, and I'm just gonna wait until I get to the interesting part of the zone. Because when you get somewhere and it's like, okay, it's empty, there might be a world boss roaming around, but, you know, Probably not. It's just, it's not... I don't know. I'm very sour on Elden Ring. And the thing is, I feel like if I played it, I would like it a lot more. Like, if I gave it an... If I forced myself to play it and complete it, and I fought all the bosses, and I did the DLC, I would then be like, oh yeah, Elden Ring's pretty good. I like Elden Ring. But I don't want to force myself to play it, you know? Like, I think, like, Elden Ring's just like a... Elden Ring has the gameplay that I want, but it's in an open world, so I don't give a shit. Anyways, bye.